is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, we begin with rising tensions in the Middle East. Israel defends its airstrikes in Doha and issues a clear strike warning, insisting Hamas leaders will find no safe haven. In the United States, President Donald Trump is pushing for tougher laws on media control, calling for accountability on networks and platforms after the deadly attack that claimed the life of conservative figure Charlie Kirk. In South America, Venezuela puts its military muscle on display as thousands join massive militia drills, a show of major military power amid tensions with the United States. Meanwhile, in Nepal, a historic turning point, the country's first female prime minister unveils a reformist cabinet after deadly protests, signaling a new dawn for the Himalayan nation. In Asia, Thailand grapples with a strong currency as the baht surges to a 4-year high, sparking concerns from businesses and prompting the prime minister to take urgent action. Back here at home, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. approved salary increases and improved medical benefits for employees of government-owned and controlled corporations, a much-needed pay boost for the public sector workforce. And in Europe, chaos in Paris, a fried chicken giveaway by a social media influencer turns into a stampede, forcing police to use tear gas to control the crowd. I'm Fatima Nawzil. Newsline World starts now. U.S. President Donald Trump says he learned the airstrike in Doha the same way the rest of the world did from the media and insisted Qatar will not be targeted again. President Trump spoke to reporters this afternoon after questions about whether Israeli leaders had coordinated with the White House before striking sites in Doha. Trump bluntly said he was not directly notified by Prime Minister Netanyahu and suggested the attack caught U.S. officials by surprise. Let's hear the rest of what he said.
Well, he won't be heading in Qatar. As I say, I call it Qatar, you call it Qatar. You're actually more right, but actually you're allowed to go. The Emir said, you can say it any way you want, but I've always thought of it as Qatar. I think it's a beautiful sound. And actually they've been a very good ally. And a lot of people don't know that. But he won't be hitting Qatar, but he will be maybe going after. Now, there was an article that I read in a newspaper just about an hour ago where Hamas said they're going to use the 20 hostages as human shields. They're going to bring them up from the dark tunnels, and they're going to put them in the line of fire so that if Israel goes forward, they're going to die. And I thought that was very terrible, and I put out a statement on that. You saw that.
Trump's comments raised fresh questions about communication between U.S. and Israeli leaders during a volatile round of strikes and about how the U.S. balances support for Israel with concerns about regional partners like Qatar. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is defending last week's strike in Doha targeting Hamas leaders. Speaking with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Jerusalem, Netanyahu insisted the operation sent a clear message that Hamas won't be safe anywhere. This report. Israel's airstrike on Hamas officials inside Doha, Qatar drew widespread international condemnation. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
It was conducted by us, and we assume full responsibility for it because we believe that terrorists should not be given a haven, and the people who planned the worst massacre of the Jewish people since the Holocaust cannot have immunity. So we did it on our own, period.
Pressed by reporters on whether the attack had backfired, Netanyahu rejected the suggestion, saying he would not call it a failure.
Well, I don't accept the premise in your question, which is that Hamas, that the raid failed. Didn't fail because it had one central message, and we considered it before we launched it. And that is, you can hide, you can run, but we'll get you. You can, and this is important. I mean, terrorists they think they enjoy immunity, they'll do it again and again and again.
The Prime Minister also refused to rule out striking Hamas operatives in other countries, citing historic precedent.
We had a massacre a few decades ago. It's called the Munich Massacre, in which PLO terrorists murdered our athletes to the Olympic Games. And my predecessor, Golda Meir, vowed that we shall track down these terrorists and get them one by one, which is what we proceeded to do in the leading European countries. And we did this one by one by one. I didn't hear a great cry of wrongdoing to these countries. Even though they weren't harboring terrorists, the terrorists were there. Okay, they didn't even harbor them, as is the case in other cases. The terrorists happened to be on that soil, and we acted.
Israel's strike on Qatari soil, the first of its kind, has angered governments across the Arab and Islamic world, as Qatar has played host to mediation efforts over Gaza. Standing beside Netanyahu's Secretary of State Marco Rubio voiced support for Israel's security concerns while separately condemning last week's killing of U.S. conservative activist Charlie Kirk. An iconic landmark in Gaza City has been wiped out. Israel bombed the Al Ghafri Tower, the tallest building in the enclave, after the Israeli Defense Forces ordered residents to leave. This video shows the moment Israeli airstrikes brought down the 20-story tower in Gaza's Port District. A massive plume of smoke rose over the city as residents gathered around the rubble. The Israeli military claimed the tower was being used by Hamas for surveillance and intelligence gathering. It had issued evacuation warnings to nearby residents before the strike. Hamas condemned the attack as, quote, a crime of ethnic cleansing and genocide, citing the systematic destruction of residential towers and mass displacement of civilians. Local media say the building housed families, media outlets, and business, making it a key symbol of Gaza City. The strike comes as Israel expands its ground operations under what it calls Operation Gideon's Chariots 2. Thailand's baht is climbing to a 4-year high, prompting the new prime minister to act as businesses warn the strong currency could strain the economy. Anisa de Guzman for the details.
Thai Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul says the strength of the baht needs to be urgently addressed and will be discussed with the Federation of Thai Industries later in the day. The baht traded at 31.74 per US dollar after reaching 31.57 last week, its highest in more than 4 years. It has appreciated by 7.9% so far this year, making it the second best performing currency in Asia after Taiwan's dollar. Businesses, including rice traders, have raised concerns over the baht's strength and urged immediate action. The Industry Federation said a rate of 34 to 35 baht per dollar would be more appropriate for the economy. Anutin, who recently won a parliamentary vote with an overwhelming majority, is expected to seek royal approval for his new cabinet lineup this week. The incoming team includes Senior Finance Ministry official Igniti Niti Tan Prapas as Finance Minister, former PTT Group head Atupon Rikpipon to oversee energy, and former Dusitani Chief Executive Supachi Sotampon as Commerce Minister. Thailand's economy is projected to grow by 1.8 to 2.3% this year, with a slowdown expected in the second half of 2025 due to the impact of U.S. tariffs. Growth last year was 2.5%, lagging behind regional peers. The Bank of Thailand last month cut its key interest rate to 1.50%, its lowest in nearly 3 years. The next policy meeting is scheduled for October 8. Analysts expect further rate cuts to bring the benchmark down to 1% by the end of 2026. I'm Anissa de Guzman, your Global Citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Coming up in the United States, President Donald Trump is pushing for tougher laws on media control, calling for accountability on networks and platforms after the deadly attack that claimed the life of conservative figure Charlie Kirk. In South America, Venezuela puts its military muscle on display as thousands join massive militia drills, a show of major military power amid tensions with the United States. More news after the break.
Sa kabila ng mga mas modernong kaalaman at teknolohiya, nananatiling matindi ang banta ng HIV sa Pilipinas. Pero gaano nga ba kalala ang sitwasyon? Ang HIV o Human Immunodeficiency Virus ay isang sakit na sumisira sa immune system ng katawan. Ngunit tandaan, hindi ito nakukuha sa simpleng pakikisalamuha. Hindi mo agad mararamdaman, pero unti-unti nitong pinapahina ang katawan. At kapag hindi naagapan, humahantong ito sa AIDS, ang huling yugto na impeksyon, kung saan halos wala ng panlaban ng katawan laban sa sakit. Patuloy na dumadami ang kaso ng sakit na ito sa Pilipinas. Isang nakababahalang pagtaas. Umabot na sa 500% ang itinaas ng HIV cases sa mga kabataang edad 15 hanggang 25. Ayon mismo sa Department of Health, 56 na bagong kaso ang naitatala kada araw sa bansa mula Enero hanggang Marso 2025. At ang pinakamatinding apektado, ang kalalakihan at kabataang Pilipino. Dahil dito, ang Pilipinas na ngayon ang may pinakamataas na bilang ng bagong kaso ng HIV sa buong Western Pacific region. Isang indikasyon ng lumulubahang sitwasyon. Kaya nananawagan ng Department of Health gawing opisyal at urgent ang laban sa HIV sa pamamagitan ng isang Public Health Emergency Declaration. Kalalakihan ng pangunahing apektado, 95% ng bagong kaso ay lalaki. Mahigit 1/3 ay kabataang nasa edad 15 hanggang 24. Habang wala pang deklarasyon, patuloy ang DOH sa mga sumusunod na hakbang: HIV testing, libreng gamot, self-test kits, at pakikipagtulungan sa DepEd para sa edukasyon sa mga paaralan. Isinulong rin ng DOH ang online patient appointment system para sa HIV patients. Layunin nitong gawing mas madali at mas personal ang pag-access sa libreng gamutan at konsultasyon ayon sa schedule ng pasyente. Ang HIV ay hindi tulad ng flu. Hindi ito basta naipapasa sa hangin. Ito ay naipapasa sa pamamagitan ng personal na desisyon. Kailangan din nating pagtuunan ng pansin ang ugali, disiplina at personal na responsibilidad. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
U.S. President Donald Trump is amplifying calls to hold media and social networks legally responsible for spreading false information after the deadly attack that claimed the life of conservative figure Charlie Kirk. Franco Baranda reports.
Alrighty, this message is for President
U.S. President Donald Trump reposted a video on his Truth social account calling for what supporters are calling the Charlie Kirk Act. The short clip, originally uploaded on TikTok, was posted by Ellie Mae in hopes of it reaching Trump and his administration to hold news outlets, online creators, and social media platforms financially liable for spreading false claims or unverified accusations. LD also referenced the Smith-Mundt Act, a law that was intended to prevent the dissemination of U.S.-backed foreign media domestically. She suggested naming the proposal after the conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who was killed while speaking to students in Utah this week. She accused the media of fueling division, bringing chaos, hatred, division, and anarchy all across this country and contributing to the hostile environment surrounding Kirk.
They can have their opinions, that's fine. They need to state that it is their opinion and that it is not a fact. Because of their constant lies, a man lost his life over it. Because we are on a dangerous path right now with the constant lies and the propaganda, and that doesn't end just at news journalists. It needs to go to content creators who consistently spread lies and propaganda and half-truths across the internet. This needs to end.
Trump offered no direct comment, but his repost signals agreement with IDEA. Trump's signal boost comes as an online petition echoing the call for stricter penalties against media outlets, and social networks quickly gained traction, collecting more than 40,000 signatures within a day. Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA, was 31 years old. Utah Governor Spencer Cox said the suspect arrested in his killing was driven by extremist political views. Trump vowed to hold not only the attacker accountable, but also what he described as radical left networks that incite violence. Reporting for Newsline World, Franco Baranda, SMNI News.
In response to recent maritime tensions with the United States, Venezuela's defense minister led a major military training exercise where thousands of new volunteers in the Bolivarian militia took part in weapons handling and tactical drills. More on this from Jane Cognita.
Venezuelan Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino arrived at the El Libertador range on Saturday as thousands of militiamen and FANB troops ran through coordinated drills, from weapons handling and basic defensive maneuvers to close-quarter tactical cohesion. Roughly 4,000 newly enlisted volunteers took live instruction at the Caracas range, part of simultaneous exercises held at more than 300 training centers across the country. Officials say the civilian reserve is meant to bolster the Bolivarian National Armed Force in defending national sovereignty. The mobilization comes after Caracas accused the U.S. Navy of intercepting a Venezuelan fishing vessel and detaining its crew for hours in what Venezuela called an act of aggression, an incident the government claims shows the need for heightened readiness. Backed by war tanks and field instructors, Defense Minister Padrino framed the drills as a national strategy of deterrence and unity between soldiers and citizens. He told the crowd the measure is necessary to protect Venezuela's peace and sovereignty.
Es una consubstanciación bella, hermosa, de lo que es la unión popular, militar y policial. Es la estrategia que nosotros hemos tomado para defender esta patria y que lo tengan muy claro, muy claro. Nosotros estamos dispuestos a dar la vida y no estoy exagerando. No hablo nada más por la Fuerza Armada, los hombres de uniforme. Hablo por todo el pueblo. Hay que venirlos a escuchar. Hay que escuchar a ese pueblo lo que siente en estos momentos.
This has been Jane Cognita, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
In Nepal, the country's first female prime minister, Sushila Karki, is moving quickly to restore order, unveiling a new reformist cabinet after the Gen Z protests that devastated the country. Almar Forsuelo has the details.
Nepal's interim Prime Minister Sushila Karki announced key cabinet appointments days after taking office, following nationwide anti-corruption protests that killed at least 72 people and led to the resignation of former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. Karki, a former Chief Justice and the country's first woman leader, was sworn on Sunday and tasked with overseeing national elections scheduled for March 5. According to the President's office, Rameshwari Prasad Kanal, a former Finance Secretary who headed a panel recommending economic reforms, has been appointed Finance Minister. Former State Power Utility Chief Kulman Gising will lead the Energy Ministry, while human rights lawyer Om Prakash Aryal has been named Home Minister. The unrest, Nepal's worst in decades, was driven by youth-led protests against corruption. Acts of arson and vandalism destroyed major government buildings, including the Prime Minister's office, Parliament, and Supreme Court, along with homes of political leaders and several businesses. More than 2,100 people were injured. Officials have yet to provide an estimate of the damage. Karki has instructed agencies to begin rebuilding public structures destroyed during the protest. Reporting for Newsline World, Almar Forsuelo, SMNI News.
A new visa-free travel policy is bringing Russian visitors to China's northeast border city of Heihe. Officials hope the move will not only spur tourism but also strengthen cross-border ties. Daniela Paulite has a story.
At Heihe port in China's Heilongjiang province, Russian travelers lined up for passport checks and strolled through local streets, the first to enter under Beijing's new visa-free regime. The one-year trial allows Russian citizens with ordinary passports to stay up to 30 days in China. Fares arrive with passengers eager to shop, eat, and explore.
Хорошо, что сделали без виз. Меньше времени тратишь, проще проехать. В общем, замечательно, я доволен. Поехали гостить куда-нибудь, отдыхать. И выезжать проще. В любой момент я могу уехать, хоть сегодня собраться. То есть не надо мне не ждать никого. Короче, меня все устраивает, все хорошо.
Здравствуйте. Приехали сегодня во второй раз. До этого ездили в июле по визе. Сейчас ездим первый раз без визы. Все очень хорошо. Прошли быстро, только по паспорту. Приехали сюда с друзьями отдыхать, туризм, посещать вашу китайскую кухню, вашу культуру смотреть. Все очень понравилось. Конечно же, также планируем приезжать сюда с родственниками, с родителями и не один раз.
For local businesses, the arrival of Russian visitors is already seen as a boost.
今天9月15号，然后中俄免签了，目前，我觉得俄罗斯人会越来越多，然后对我们这边生意会越来越好，因为我们这边主要是对俄罗斯人的对外的，售的商品也是都是对外的。
今天第一天，俄罗斯来咱们中国黑河是免签了。这俄罗斯人以后可能将来会越来越多，这样事的话，对我们黑河这个出租车，我们这活也能客源也能多一些，各行各业都能好一点。
Chinese state media say the impact is visible, reporting that ticket sales to China have doubled and hotel searches surged 5 to 9-fold after the announcement. The visa-free program is part of broader efforts to expand economic and cultural exchanges between China and Russia, with border cities like Heihe now becoming gateways for closer cooperation. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Daniela Paulite as Gemini News.
After the break, here at home, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. approved salary increases and improved medical benefits for employees of government-owned and controlled corporations, a much-needed pay boost for the public sector workforce. And in Europe, chaos in Paris. A fried chicken giveaway by a social media influencer turns into a stampede, forcing police to use tear gas to control the crowd. Don't go away, Newsline World will be back.
Pasasaan pa ang kalayaan kung ang mga alipin ngayon ay sila din naman mang-aalipin bukas.
Ibigin mo ang iyong bayan ng sunod kay Bathala, sa iyong kapurihan at higit sa lahat sa iyong sarili.
natin mapapalaya ang ating mga sarili maliban kung sumulong tayo na nagkakaisa sa iisang hangarin.
Ang tunay na makabayan ay ang tumutupad ng pagpapabuti ng kanyang mga kapwa, gaano man kaaba ang kanyang katungkulan. Naway magsilbing paalala ang kanilang mga salita upang lalo nating mahalin at tapat na paglingkuran ang minamahal nating inang bayan.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod. Pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
Sa tuwing bumabaha, hindi lang seguridad ang nalalagay sa alanganin, pati na rin ang kalusugan. Isa sa mga bantang dapat iwasan, ang leptospirosis. Ano nga ba ito? Ito ay isang sakit na dulot ng bakterya na tinatawag na leptospira. Nakukuha ito sa pamamagitan ng kontak sa ihi ng mga hayop na may leptospira tulad ng mga daga. Pwede itong makuha sa pagsulong sa baha o pag-inom ng kontaminadong tubig. Nakakapasok ito sa katawan sa pamamagitan ng mga sugat, mata, ilong o bibig. Ang mga sintomas nito ay lagnat, mapulang mata, hirap umihi, masakit na tiyan, masakit na kalamnan, at masakit na ulo. Paano nga ba maiiwasan ang leptospirosis? Ugaliin ang tamang pagtatapon ng basura dahil ang mga maruruming lugar ang kadalasang pinupuntahan ng dagang may dalang leptospirosis. Iwasang lumusong, maglaro o lumangoy sa baha
lalo na kapag may sugat. Gumamit ng bota at gloves kung hindi maiiwasang lumusong sa tubig baha. Sugpuin ang mga daga sa bahay at panatilihin ang kalinisan sa komunidad. Hugasan ng malinis na tubig at sabon ang mga paa matapos lumusong sa baha. Sa kalinisan ng bawat isa, nakasalalay ang kaligtasan ng buong komunidad. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez is calling for Israel and Russia to be banned from international sports competitions, citing ongoing military offensives in Gaza and Ukraine. Paul Montibon has the details.
Amid the ongoing tensions between Israel and Palestine and the continuing war in Ukraine, the Prime Minister of Spain has made a bold statement calling for Israel and Russia to be banned from international sporting competitions. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez delivered a strong and clear message: neither Russia nor Israel should be allowed to compete internationally as long as their military offensives persist. His remarks come in the wake of disruptions at the La Vuelta cycling race, where pro-Palestinian protesters stormed the race route in protest against the participation of Israel Premier Tech, a team backed by the Israeli government.
Nuestra posición es clara y rotunda, y además creo que la comparte una inmensa mayoría de la ciudadanía. Da igual lo que voten izquierda, derecha, centro, da igual. Porque están en el sentido común, están en la defensa de los derechos humanos y el derecho internacional que está siendo menoscabado por Rusia y por Israel. Por tanto, nuestra posición es clara y rotunda. Hasta que no cese la barbarie, ni Rusia ni Israel deben estar en ninguna competición internacional más.
Sanchez questioned the fairness of international sports organization, asking why Russia was banned after its invasion of Ukraine, while Israel continues to compete despite its military actions in Gaza. Due to continued demonstrations, several parts of the La Vuelta race were interrupted, including the final stage in Madrid, which was halted 56 kilometers before the finish line after protesters blocked the road. However, not everyone agrees with the Prime Minister's stance. Opposition leader Alberto Núñez condemned Sanchez's remarks, urging the government to prevent, not encourage, such protest. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montibon, SMNI News.
The Brazilian city of Belém is in a final push to complete major infrastructure upgrades as it prepares to host COP30 from November 10th to 21st. The 30th United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP30, will bring together world leaders, negotiators, and activists to assess global progress under the Paris Agreement and strengthen commitments to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. It will be the first time Brazil and the Amazon region host the event. Nearly 90% of works at Parque da Cidade, the future venue for negotiations and public activities, are complete. The city is also expanding its airport, improving roads, and adding accommodation options, backed by almost $4 billion in federal investment.
É grande desafio para a cidade e acredito que o paraense ele abraçou muito a COP. Então, não só as empresas, não só quem trabalha já com turismo, mas a população em si, ela está muito esperançosa, ansiosa por essa COP.
Despite concerns over lodging shortages and high prices, local officials insist most essential projects will be delivered on time. Urban renewal initiatives like the Porto Futuro waterfront development are also underway, expected to stand as long-term legacies of the summit. The Philippine government has announced where the funds from the scrapped 2026 flood control budget will go by providing a list of spending menu. Preslin Catarong will give us more details.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. announced that the funds originally allocated for flood control projects in 2026 will instead be redirected to key sectors, including education, agriculture, health, housing, infrastructure, ICT, labor, social welfare, and energy. In a press conference held at Malacanang, Marcos Jr. emphasized the importance of responsible spending, ensuring the realigned budget benefits projects with meaningful public impact.
Now, since we have canceled all flood control projects for 2026, those savings, we already put a menu. Kaya para nga, unang-una, kahit na for the budget na sinusulat ngayon, kailangan na maliwanag na mapupunta sa tamang lugar. And so we have made a menu for our legislators to follow and say that all insertions, all changes made can only be made to the benefit of these agencies.
The Philippine government spending menu outlines specific programs and projects that will benefit from the realigned funds. Among the top priorities are state universities and colleges, which will receive funding for the construction of laboratory buildings, student dormitories, and academic buildings. For the Department of Education, funds will be used to build basic education facilities, continue the school building program, procure textbooks and instructional materials, provide laptops under the computerization program, and implement the last mile school program. In the agriculture sector, the Department of Agriculture will use the budget for rice subsidies, farm-to-market roads, post-harvest facilities, cold storage expansion, and the construction of fish ports. The National Irrigation Administration will focus on building irrigation dams to support local farming. For the Department of Health, the budget will go toward enhancing health facilities, providing free medicines, and offering medical assistance to indigent and financially incapacitated patients. The Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development and the National Housing Authority will receive additional funds for the Pambansang Pabahay para sa Pilipino or 4PH program. The Office of Civil Defense will receive funding to build evacuation centers, while the Department of Information and Communications Technology will continue implementing its free Wi-Fi program. Meanwhile, the Department of Labor and Employment will receive funding for the Tupad Emergency Employment Program. The Department of Social Welfare and Development will support the assistance to individuals in crisis situations or AICs. And the Department of Energy, along with the Energy Regulatory Commission, will lead electrification projects in underserved areas. For God and for the beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Carceline Catarong, SMNI News.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has approved new salary increases and enhanced medical benefits for employees of government-owned and controlled corporations in a move aimed at acknowledging their vital role in delivering public services. Speaking during the 2025 GOCC's Day celebration in Malacanang Palace on Tuesday, Marcos Jr. emphasized that the newly approved reforms are part of his administration's ongoing efforts to recognize the dedication and service of the GOCC workforce. The Philippine President has approved Compensation and Position Classification System or CPCS2, which will raise the salaries of GOCC employees and grant tiered medical allowances based on each GOCC's financial capacity. He clarified that for GOCCs that already implemented CPCS1, the salary increases will be retroactive to January 1 this year, once they receive approval from the Governance Commission for GOCCs or GCG. Marcos Jr. also highlighted that the changes will help ensure government workers are fairly compensated while continuing to uphold excellence, transparency, and accountability in public service. More.
A history-making night unfolded at the 77th Emmy Awards. Aside from honoring well-known actors and actresses for their exceptional performances in their respective projects, a new star was also recognized. For the very first time, 15-year-old Owen Cooper took the stage to accept the Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actor, thanks to his standout role in the limited series Adolescence. The young actor captivated audiences with his remarkable powerful performance as Jamie Miller, a troubled 13-year-old teen arrested for the murder of a classmate in a British psychological crime drama. The series explores the complexities of teenage life, including peer pressure and the influence of social communities. Adolescence premiered on Netflix on March 13. This was Owen Cooper's breakout role. And since his impressive acting debut, he's already lined up to star in a new movie alongside big names Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. In addition to Cooper's win for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Limited or Anthology Series or Movie, Adolescence took home 7 other awards at the Emmys. Distinguished English actor Stephen Graham won Outstanding Lead Actor in a Limited or Anthology Series or Movie for his powerful portrayal of Eddie Miller, a father struggling to cope with the trauma of his teenage son's arrest for murder. His performance deeply resonated with audiences, earning him this prestigious award. Aside from the awards, actors and actresses lit up the 77th Emmys with their dazzling outfits. The night turned into a glamorous runway as global stars graced the red carpet in show-stopping fashion. Anna Sawai exuded elegance in a black Giorgio Armani privé gown featuring crystal embroidery and a statement shoulder bow paired with Cartier jewels. Blackpink's Lisa went full fairy tale in a pink leather couture creation with strips of tulle, a thigh-high slit, and a flowing train, earning comparisons to a modern-day Glinda. Selena Gomez stands in a Louis Vuitton halter neck gown with asymmetric draped collar. Her fiancé Benny Blanco joined her on the red carpet. Angela Bassett shimmered in gold and silver, wearing a Yara shoemaker column gown decked with vertical crystal panels, while Leslie Bibb radiated classic glamour in a black velvet Armani privé gown adorned with crystals. And breaking away from gowns entirely, Cate Blanchett redefined red carpet power, dressing in a velvet Armani privé jumpsuit with a plunging neckline, structured shoulders, white calves, and a sparkling bow detail at the back. This year's Emmys red carpet wasn't just about the awards, but also about fashion. And that's for today's Showbiz Update. This is Stella Maris, your global citizen correspondent, bringing you the latest show-buzzing entertainment news for Newsline World.
In sports, Alas Pilipinas braces for a tough challenge as they take on powerhouse Egypt in the Men's World Championship, while France will be missing 2 key players in their World Cup semi-final against England after disciplinary sanctions from their quarter-final clash with Ireland. Carla De La Peña has the news.
Libero Josh Ibanez acknowledges the tough task ahead as the Philippines faces an organized and composed Egyptian squad that earlier shocked Iran to grab a share of the Pool A lead with Tunisia. Despite the odds, the 22-year-old assures that the team will fight with heart when they take the floor Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. in the Mall of Asia Arena. Ibanez noted that Egypt's consistency under pressure is the level they aim to reach, but their spirited third-set stand against Tunisia, highlighted by Brian Baguna's scoring run, proved the Filipinos can hold their own on this stage. Coach Angiolino Frigoni will again turn to Bagunas and Mark Espeo for firepower, setter Owa Retamar for orchestration, and the youthful spark of Peng Tagibolos and Leo Ordiales. Meanwhile, Egypt's Marco Bonita will rely on his tested trio of Ahmed Shafiq, Abdelrahman El Hosseini, and Ali Saifuddin Hassan. Ibanez admits the Filipinos may not yet match Egypt's talent, but says they will counter with composure, energy, and pride in carrying the national colors. Meanwhile, back row Axel Bertomeu has been suspended for 12 matches after biting Ireland's Eva Wafer in their quarterfinal clash. The sanction rules her out of the semi-final, the bronze or final match on September 27th, and 10 more domestic games through March 2026. Bertomeu admitted the offense but is appealing the length of the ban. Co-captain Mane Felou was also cited for a high tackle and handed a 3-match suspension, which could be reduced to 2 if she completes tackle school. She has also filed an appeal. The incident occurred during France's 18-13 victory over Ireland at Sandy Park, where no action was taken during the match after the TMO found no clear evidence. The Independent Foul Play Review Committee later confirmed the offense through video and written testimony. France, who trailed 13-0 before rallying to win, will now face England in the semi-final at Ashton Gate. France lose Bertomeu and Felou ahead of World Cup semi-final versus England. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo De La Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
High above the rugged landscapes of Boyaca, adventure seekers are flocking to what's being called the ultimate test of courage, Colombia's longest hanging staircase. Let's delve more into this with Cristal Guanco.
Known as the Stairway to Heaven or Paso del Angel, the structure stretches an astonishing 250 meters with more than 600 steps suspended in mid-air. Officially recognized as the country's longest hanging staircase, it has become the centerpiece of Eco Parque El Hayal in Santa Sofia. What makes this attraction truly daring is its design. In some sections, the pathway narrows to just 35 centimeters wide, leaving little room for error and amplifying the rush of vertigo. Visitors say every step feels like a balancing act between courage and gravity. The attraction is part of Colombia's push to expand extreme tourism, offering experiences that are as emotional as they are physical. One visitor shared that this place is not just for a walk, but a challenge to your fears. But that thrill doesn't end there. Eco Parque El Hayal is also home to Colombia's largest Tibetan bridge, a swaying suspension crossing that stretches 162 meters, adding another adrenaline-filled challenge for visitors hungry for more. With its mix of breathtaking views, heart-pounding thrills, and record-breaking structures, the Stairway to Heaven is putting Boyaca on the map as one of Latin America's top adventure tourism destinations. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Cristal Guanco, SM9 News.
And before we end, may be inspired with the words of the song. Guard your mind, soul, and heart that they will remain upright in the sight of God. And as we keep track of the countdown, there's only 100 days left before Christmas. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Fatima Nawzil. Thanks for watching and goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.